Joining us tonight, RNC Chair Ronna McDaniel. Ronna, great to have you with us. When you look at those numbers and you hear Senator Warren talk about subsidizing, what she's really saying is just underwrite the salaries of every left-wing professor in the country.
It reeks of desperation. I think she needs to go grab another beer. Her campaign is floundering. Yeah, and her sweetie. Her campaign's floundering. And as you pointed out, Lou, it's ridiculous. It's going to cost trillions of dollars. And of course, Democrats want to subsidize and pay for free college so that they can control the curriculum and determine what young adults are being taught and what they think. I am more concerned about the kids in third grade in this country who need to read. I'm concerned about kids who aren't graduating from high school. Those are the things we should be focusing on, and that's called school choice, making sure that kids aren't bound to an education based on where they live, give them the opportunity to have the best education, and those are things that Republicans champion, not free college for everybody, because it's not free. You'll pay for it many, many years after for the rest of your life. It will never be free.
Well, there's nothing free. Let's be very candid about that. The question is who pays for it. And right now, public education, we have primarily property taxes, and you can argue whether that's fair. You can argue about a host of things. Corporate America is not paying its fair share when it comes to education, but they engage in symposia all over the country about what's best for education and for training without, in point of fact, supporting public education as they should. And by the way, where in the heck is the Republican Party when it comes to the teachers' unions who have taken over education in this country? It's impossible. It's impossible to change the status quo in so many school districts, primarily because of the power of those unions.
And who keeps raising the tuition of these universities? Boards and boards of trustees run by Democrats. Right. And they're the ones hiking up the tuition rates. So if students don't like their tuition, go look at who's running your university. It's being run by Democrats and liberals.
And if you like government, everybody who are Democrats do, how has this school loan program worked out since Obama had the federal government take it over? It's an absolute abject disaster. And the only solution is a greater disaster, which is fairly typical of the way radical Dems think about government and its application. I want to turn to the president's vindication. We are now on this broadcast turning specifically, we know the crimes that weren't committed, those that the administration was accused of, but we now know that there are serious, significant, large crimes committed by the Democrats, the Democratic National Committee, members of that Democratic National Committee, and the list goes on. The Obama administration has a large role in what transpired in this conspiracy against President Donald Trump and candidate Donald Trump. How should the Republican Party respond to assure this never happens ever again to a president of the United States, and that the perpetrators of this unprecedented crime are brought to justice?
I think every Republican is sickened by what we have seen from the Obama administration, the failures of that administration that have come out through this report, that they knew that there was meddling, that they didn't pull candidate Trump aside and say, hey, there's people trying to infiltrate your campaign. Instead, they spied on them. They allowed the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign to fund this fake dossier that caused this 2-year investigation. President Trump has had to live under that shadow for 2 years. He's owed an apology by President Obama. He's owed an apology by Democrats. He should never have had to live with this for 2 years of his term. Look at all he's accomplished despite these headwinds. We need to make sure this never happens to another president again.
And do you agree
that
it is
bad for our democracy?
Do you agree that it's critically important those perpetrators, those criminals, be brought to justice?
I think we have to get to the bottom of why and how this happened. We have to get to the bottom of it.
And the perpetrators, should they be punished?
And the perpetrators, absolutely, absolutely. Listen, if you are funding a fake dossier to put dirt out on a candidate that then causes an investigation that puts our country in limbo for 2 years, you need to be held accountable. And that's what the Hillary Clinton and the DNC and the Democrat Party has done. And you know what? They're doubling down. They're doubling down right now. And let's be very clear. The president did not collude and he did not obstruct. He was transparent. He didn't exert executive privilege. He let his staff talk to the Mueller people. I mean, this is a president who's gone above and beyond, and he's gotten so much less than he deserved.
He did, and he also got more than he deserved. Volume 2 of the Mueller report is an absolute affront to judgment, reason, and decency. He was not charged. He was exonerated. He was vindicated. And now the criminals of the deep state, the radical Dems, and those who absolutely abuse power in the Justice Department and the FBI, as well as our intelligence community, need to be held to account and suffer the consequences. Ronna McDaniel, always good to have you with us. Thanks so much.